Disclaimer: the following video contains an organized and objectified remix music tier list from the Super Smash Bros. Series. It contains provoking thoughts and concerns from each remix in the games, all coming from this one random guy on the internet. Music is subjective, so not everyone's thoughts and lists might match with myself and others, so please take this into consideration. There will be anger, rage, and a tiny hint of salt, so watch at your own risk. If you do enjoy this video, however, go ahead and give it a like and share it amongst your peers, and why not go ahead and comment on why my tier list is so bad and why my choices were not to your liking. I would actually love to see what you have to say after watching this video. All things considered, I do really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen in on what I have to say in this video. Now, let's get right to it and enjoy the sounds of the, remixes of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Enjoy. And the honor of the worst remix in Super Smash Bros. History goes to Cloud Top Cruise from Mario Kart 8. Originated in the same game, Cloud Top Cruise is one of the new courses introduced in the Mario Kart series, and its said track has two musical variations for it. The first being the White Cloud variation that has an orchestra sounding very similar to Super Mario Galaxy's rendition of Gusty Garden Galaxy, and the Thundercloud variation, which takes the same music piece and instead uses a heavy metal rock approach to it. Atsuko Asahi, the original composer in Mario Kart 8, decided to copy and merge both of these variations together to create an absolute absurd abomination of music that doesn't sound great at all in the final product. I get that Cloud Top Cruise is a fairly popular track to play and has amazing music to boot. I have no complaints on listening to both variations, they are great to listen to separately. But chokeslamming them into each other, like, come on man, really? Did you even listen to the piece you're even making? Not hating on Asahi in the slightest, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't get their ears checked while soundproofing the remix to hear if it was any good at all. The remix itself mostly emphasizes on the Thundercloud variation in the forefront, while the normal orchestra variation is used in the background, hence the main trumpet not being present at all, and halfway through the remix there is new instrumentation added that takes away the orchestra, with more heavy metal instruments that didn't really need it in the first place. I believe there were two options that they could have done to prevent this monstrosity from ever happening. One was to make a Cloud Top Cruise remix that only had one stylized choice of a variation, or a completely new variation to keep the music fresh. The other option was to not make it a remix, but to separate both into their own songs without both pieces clashing against each other. Unfortunately, this wasn't the case, and instead, we get this horrendous dogshit remix that shouldn't have been made, period. Don't fret, however, Asahi is still a great composer in my opinion. I mean, she was one of the main composers for Mario Kart 8, so she obviously has a lot of bangers under her belt, and will come back with more remix pieces for Smash down the line. I will get to those in time. But for now, you'll just have to suck it up and take this shit-smearing trophy for the worst Super Smash Bros. Remix of all time. Well, to me personally at least. Next up on Why Was This Even Remixed in the First Place? Is Pac-Man. Originating in the arcade classic with the same name, this remix includes excerpts of the game start theme, stage theme, and intermission themes with gameplay sounds such as the Ghosts and Pac-Man being ripped straight out from the game with little to no alterations given to this remix. Although this piece has a decently fast tempo, this is basically a 1-to-1 8-bit carbon copy of the game, which Yuzo Koshihiro probably wanted it to sound like. I mean, I understand what he was going for and I respect that, but man, this is super underwhelming and not that fun listening to. Like, at all. Pac-Man is one of the most iconic and popular games of all time, but if you're looking for fighting game music, this is not it, Chief. Unless if you're a fucking weirdo. I don't know. I just really don't understand why this should be remixed in the first place, and even be called a remix at that if it sounds literally the same as it did in the 1980 arcade game. If that is how it is done, then why couldn't they put it as a Pac-Man retro medley like they did it with the Mega Man retro medleys, or the other old school Namco retro medleys that are in Ultimate already? I guess altering the original music a bit and inputting basic sound elements makes it a remix somehow? Interpretations of the word remix for these early entries on the list are really skewed up the ass. Anyways, if the remixes are sounding like an early arcade or old school NES game, it's going to dock a lot of points for me. And in this case, put it as the second worst remix of Smash history in that boat. Smell you later, Stinky. Speaking of old game music, we have Balloon Trip that was remixed in Smash 4 to go over now. Originating from the NES game Balloon Fight, Balloon Trip is a side game that lets the player traverse a long distance avoiding obstacles along the way to see how far the player can go until they get hit. The music piece being remixed here uses the same type of music that is found in the original NES game, more or less. You can take that as a positive or a negative, but since it's almost at the bottom of the tier list, you can tell where I side on that spectrum. Even though this remix sounds just like it's from the original game, I'll give it some credit by it using heightened pitches of game quips and sounds not heard from the original NES track that it almost sounds like a medley in a way. But there's already a Balloon Fight medley in Smash that's so much better anyways, I'm not really going to give it that benefit of the doubt. I'll at least keep it above the Pac-Man remix, for it having better sound quality to it and also flowing a bit better. The weird stops in between the Pac-Man remix makes it less enjoyable to listen to, but having no stops and a constant flow of music for this Balloon Trip remix makes it just a tier higher, which isn't really saying much, but it's there, I guess. It honestly would have been better if this was listed as a retro medley, instead of having it called a so-called quote-unquote remix. But yeah, nothing much else to say about this one. If you like your old game music that you want to play for whatever reason, this is perfect for you, but please keep me out of whatever weird song fetishes you like to listen to. Okay? Thanks. Still, continuing on the crappy 8-bit remix escapade, is Donkey Kong. Originating in the arcade classic with the same name, this remix features excerpts of the original game, mostly using the background music for the 25-meter level, with game sounds incorporated into the remix, like jumping over barrels and using the hammer power-up. Even though the style of music is going for a more underground and grungy feel to it, which is very different from the original game, it's just a god-awful and super weird remix to make. Like, it's fine to use sounds and music from older video games to make the remixes, but rehashing these old sounds without giving it a personal taste in not so varying degrees can only get you so far, and makes it really hard to enjoy from listening in Smash and by itself. I do think that adding in a bit of electric guitar and drums to incorporate some decent composition that make this remix stand out just a tad on the originality side of things, unlike in the other remixes listed already, but it really doesn't hold up a lot of the time. I'd much rather listen to a blender blending screws and bolts than listening to this garbage, and it is definitely not meant to be played for high-stakes action games like Smash. Since he also made that Balloon Trip remix mentioned earlier, I understand that Hirokazu Tanaka is a composer known for his compositions from the NES titles way back when, so it really wasn't surprising for him to make this sort of remix too, and well, he did try something to say the least with these two. Not going to go too far ahead with the achievements of what he did back in the day, I just really wish that he could have done a lot more with this remix. If you really wanted to make a great old school Donkey Kong remix, look no further than the one that was made for Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix on the GameCube. That piece has the audacity to call itself a decent remix and throwing a bunch of bullshit together and call it a day. I'd honestly rather have that remix be put into Smash than this. Like, seriously man, this shit sucks, just like the other remixes before it. But I think it's time to move on now before I go on a huge ranting spree. Now, we actually have our first medley in Smash, and what a so-called medley to go over. This piece goes over the distinct music from the Game Boy Advance game WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games. In order of music appearance, this medley features the introduction to 9Volt's microgame section, Jimmy T's Boss microgame, a song called Drifting Away from Dribble and Spitz's microgame section, the introduction and game over music scenario for Dr. Krygor's microgame section, introduction to Wario's second microgame section, the newsflash jingle for the game that plays during cutscenes, and then the main menu and title screen theme to end it all before looping back to the beginning. While this medley has such a wide variety of music from the original game, that's honestly all I can say about it. The problem with this medley is that it sounds exactly like the music from the Game Boy Advance game, just upscaled on modern hardware. The main game takes about an hour or so to complete from start to finish, and I guarantee that you would recognize all of these songs in this medley, and they don't differentiate a lot from the original game. I will applaud Ryoji Yoshitomi, the arranger for the original game who also made this remix, for making really distinctive tracks that he made by putting them all together. But not making a new approach to any of these songs is not very original to be calling this a remix, and that is why I'm putting it here on the tier list. Might as well call it another retro medley at this point, but since this was made in Smash Brawl and this WarioWare game came out a few years prior, that's probably why it didn't get that treatment. However, the main menu and title theme actually did have duly made compositions, and Drifting Away's arrangement here reflects in the Nintendo Sound Selection Volume 3 B-side CD, and as such, has noticeably higher quality from the track found in the original game. They are all nice changes actually, but aren't worth noting much since most of the other songs featured in this medley here use the original format found in the Game Boy Advance game, so a big 1 step forward but 4 steps back deal we got going on here. Speaking about Drifting Away, I really wish that it got its own chance to shine by either getting a new remix or put in the original composition so I can play it in Smash and not have it be stuck in this medley, cause man, it really fucking slaps. But I guess we can't get everything we want, can we? So, we are out of the blatant use of incorporating old game music into these so-called remixes, and come to the music pieces that are just not very good at all. Starting this off with the Mii channel. This theme comes from the Nintendo Wii Incorporated software channel with the same name that you can use to create your personal Miis with. Alright, so I get it. The internet really loves this theme to death with its catchy tune and memes. I really do get the popularity behind it, but in this scenario of wanting it to be background music for Smash is where it doesn't hit the mark. This is just flat out boring, man. Straight up put me to sleep type of boring. Not only that, but the remix itself uses the same beats and tempo to its original counterpart. Maybe since it's so iconic that Shogo Sakai really wanted to keep it the same. All he did was add a few new instruments to the mix, like percussion instruments and a synth to shape it as a new remix. But keeping the same violins and techno beat in there, and this is just what you get. A pretty faithful piece to the original, but isn't really what I'm looking for in a great remix to be played in a game of Smash with. Maybe the song itself is to inspire creativity in creating your Miis, but I wouldn't want to use this to create custom combos in Smash. Really dumb analogy, I know. just found it clever to say. Stupid jokes aside, this remix is also pretty short with only a minute worth of loop time, which will get me the same sleep-inducing theme if drawn out on longish matches while playing. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that I'm never ever playing this remix while playing in Smash, ever again. Thank you. We've come across the first Smash Ultimate remix on the tier list, not even reaching out of the bottom 10 of the worst Smash remixes to ever be made. Since Smash Ultimate is quite known for its vibrant and well-composed remixes that were made for the game, you'd think that none of these remixes should even come close to being really bad. Well, from what you can probably tell from listening to my introductory piece, I think it's safe to say that this remix is deserving of this spot on the tier list. This is Now or Never, which comes from the Splatoon series of games, and it plays in the Turf War game mode once there's a minute left in battles, adding tension to get that win for you and your team. Adding on to this fact is that this can actually be played in Ultimate when there is 1 minute left in a timer where the remix or original piece of Now or Never does not get played on the Moray Tower stage, which adds a nice touch of detail. What's not so nice is this entire music piece. Like, what the fuck were they thinking when they decided to make this abomination? I'm not going to shit on the composer for this piece too much, which is Yuzo Koshihiro, who in turn also made the dreaded Pac-Man remix. Wow, I'm kinda seeing a pattern here. With that aside, he actually has made other amazing remixes for Smash and other video game compositions in the past, but they really thought that this remix was a good idea and gave it a go-ahead to be put into the game. Completely getting rid of the hard rock approach from the original and making a pseudo-electronic style wouldn't be such a bad thing if it wasn't so ear-piercingly and mind-numbingly terrible. Like, literally listening to this makes me cringe the whole time, and I bet a lot of other people would feel the same. I can't even really describe what I'm listening to. It sounds like jelly mutating into radioactive waste, which is kind of fitting for the Splatoon series, now that I think about it. I would have definitely put this remix on the bottom of the tier list in a heartbeat, believe me. But the other remixes featured already were just blatant ripoffs of other games. This remix actually tries to be different from its original predecessor, but Koshihiro shouldn't have even touched this if he had this in mind, and should have left the original to itself. Anyways, that's all I'm going to have to say about this fucking heap of garbage. I listened to this enough already while making the project. Can't wait to see how the Splatoon community would defend this remix, but I'm pretty sure that they already retconned this out of existence as well. Let's just leave it at that and move the fuck on. Getting back to another medley here, we have the Freaky Forms Your Creations Alive medley. Originating from the game with the same name, this is a 3DS game where you create these creatures called Formies, whose voices can be heard throughout this particular medley to complete various levels. The title theme can be heard first, which transitions to the dungeon battle theme, and then concludes with the dungeon roll call theme. The original composer to the game, Maki Kirioka, created this medley with an upbeat scale and faster tempo than the original game, with some hard rock elements nearing the end of the remix. So, general thoughts on this is... bro, what the hell am I even listening to? Sounds like something made for a toddler TV show. While I understand the premise of the original game, it looks like it was made for toddlers. Seems like the music would fit the same way, so they really got me there, huh? Better yet, I have never even heard of this game in my life before making this tier list, and this game was even produced by Nintendo? Really? Anything to make a complete sport ripoff, am I right? Anyways, I don't have any personal attachments to this game and its music, as you can already tell, but seriously, this music is just not made for Smash. Sorry for the 10 people that have played this game and who liked it. I'm sure you all must love this piece till the end of time, but like, come on, this is just not very good at all. Maybe the hard rock music that came to the ending parts of the dungeon themes are alright at best, but like, I can't get over the beginning and the rest of the track up to that point. Time to move on to better things now. If you want to call the other remixes better things, at least it's not this. Going back to another retro-esque track is the Brawl version of Chill from the original Dr. Mario game on the NES. In the original game, there were two songs to pick as background music that you can listen to while playing the game, Fever and Chill. This remix follows the same exact blueprint of the original Chill song, with a hard rock approach using electric guitar, bass, and this techno drum set which I'm honestly not a huge fan of in the grand scheme of things. They even brought a sitar near the end of the song to play the melody before the loop, with accompanying bongos and a tuba, not to mention these weird-ass vocals near the end of the remix. Like, what the fuck are they even chanting? It honestly sounds just as bad as those Squid Kid sounds from Now or Never. A lot of wacky stuff to take in with this remix alone, that I'm not personally a fan of. It's just really weird and a bit nauseating to listen to at times. It's funny, I get a little sick every time I take a listen to this remix. Must be those damn viruses that got to me. Just don't give me those mega vitamins that the doc gives out. I feel like it'll worsen my condition. Give me some better music to listen to and I'll be all set. In all seriousness though, this remix goes all over the place with little to no cohesion. I just don't really know what I'm feeling during this. Like, yeah, I kinda see what this is incorporating, but I just don't really think I like it all too well. Nothing much else to say here, to be quite frank. I'm pretty sure a few people are fans of this remix, but I highly implore you to listen to better music, please. Wow, just wow. Not even 10 remixes out from the bottom 10 and we have yet another Pac-Man remix on our hands to talk about. And it's another retro style of remix to go over as well. How very fitting. Despite the griping, I should probably go over this anyways. This is the Pac-Man Club Mix that is also focusing around the 1980 Pac-Man arcade game with a more techno-style twist to it, unlike its previous remix I covered already, almost mimicking the soundtrack from the game Pac-Man Champion Edition DX. It features its iconic game start and intermission themes, with game sounds being mixed into the piece. So yeah, just a bit better version of the Pac-Man theme, unlike the one that just threw in the original sounds to make it a so-called remix. This remix really tries to be different at least, but it doesn't do itself justice either. I'm basically so tired of the reuse of old video game sounds at this point. The only redeeming factor about this remix is the nice upbeat techno properties that you could hear across it, which make it a bit enjoyable, but then you realize that it's just a basic Pac-Man song that is done with a synth and nothing else. Like I said before earlier in the video, Hirokazu Tanaka, the composer for the remix, has been doing other 8-bit style remixes on this list already. While he is a master at 8-bit chiptune style music and he does a pretty dang good job at that, I wouldn't be catching myself playing this in Smash. It really doesn't work well behind the context of the high-stakes gameplay. At least I can say that I would much rather listen to this than the other 8-bit style of remix music for Smash, but that is the only nice thing you'll get out of me for this one. You won't be seeing the last of Tanaka either. He has some other good remixes that are pretty decent, but this isn't really his best work. The next Pac-Man remix song will be the last one on the list, however, and thank God that one was actually trying its best to be good. You'll just have to wait on what my thoughts for that one are all about, dear viewer. Next up is the first of many title theme remixes to cover, and this one is from the hit DS game Big Brain Academy. Hence the name of the remix. This is, in fact, the title theme of the DS game and reappearing with its sequel on the Nintendo Wii, Big Brain Academy Wii Degree. The remix is based loosely on the original with the same weird-ass vocal lead, but a bit faster and more of a techno style to it, with a drum set filling in for the beat, fitting that fighting game aesthetic. Well, kinda. To me, we just have another crazy weird remix on our hands. So, I never played Big Brain Academy back in my day. Apparently I don't have a childhood compared to other people. I was a brain age kid. So, I don't have any attachment in the series, but the beat is pretty nice compared to the original song, so I'll give it that much. But that's just really it. All they did was add a faster tempo with the same composition from the original. They just really didn't want to get creative with these lower rank remixes, huh? I kinda don't understand why composers want to remix one-off games for Smash. It doesn't make sense sometimes. Well, this game did come out the same time as Brawl did, so that might explain how the remix came to be. Just a little weird is all, and I might be just as weird for even mentioning this. The music here is somewhat okay at least, but I seriously could not for the life of me stand for these weird monotone vocals every other second this remix plays. Not as bad as the super loud and annoying squid sounds from Now or Never, and not as weird and disturbing from the Freaky Forms remix. At least this Vocaloid, thing really tries to do itself justice by following along with the composition. Makes it a nice touch. But if it wasn't so annoying, I would probably put it up a bit higher on the list. Maybe not even putting in the vocals in the first place would make it higher. But my head and ears can't really take any more of this crap. Definitely losing brain cells instead of making me smarter for this one, that's for sure. Here, we have the last type of remix that is ripped out of video games is Afternoon on the Island that was remixed in Smash 4. I say this because if you go side by side with this remix and the original music track, they seriously sound very similar to each other. Originally called Tomodachi Life in Smash 4, this remix takes two songs from the games Tomodachi Life and Tomodachi Collection, the former being only in Japan, and puts them together to create a medley of some kind. This remix plays the two daytime themes for Tomodachi Life and then the daytime theme for Tomodachi Collection. These two songs featured here are very faithful to the original source material, and that's the reason why I'm ranking this remix so low. Another reason is that it isn't very upbeat and has a very melodramatic vibe in a way that I just can't picture it not being a fun tune to listen to while playing Smash. This remix always appeared for me when playing Smash 4 on my 3DS back in the For Glory days, and man, this got super fucking old quick back in the day. I'm glad that there's an ultimate remix for this song that made it clearly better, but, well, spoiler, it just doesn't do a great job either on that front. We'll cross that bridge when we get to that in time, but for now, duck in this piece of shit remix into 431 on the tier list. Next up, it's Outdoors at 7 PM. Sunny, Main Street, Animal Crossing New Leaf. Holy shit, what a mouthful. And trust me, we haven't even gotten to the longest title yet. But fun fact is that this is the third longest title for any Smash song found in the games. Getting back on topic here, this arrangement comes from Animal Crossing New Leaf that plays in the main town area between 7 to 8 PM while it is sunny. Hence the name. But later on in the piece, it transitions from the main town to the main street, before looping back at the start. Compared to the original track, it has a bit of a faster tempo, and I do have to say that this is actually a very beautifully composed piece of music here. Minaka Kataoka, one of the original composers for the Animal Crossing series, did a fantastic job on remaking this piece from the 3DS game. but I would be lying to you all if this just puts me to sleep every time this remix gets played. The very soft sounds on the violin and marimba are nice, but this doesn't make me want to have a very heavy-inducing game to smash. If people don't already know, I have never played a single game from the Animal Crossing series, so this remix will not have any attachment to me. I understand the appeal of the series, but I'd just rather play any other video game genre other than life simulations, and listening to this piece, it just does not go with Smash at all. Also, this is just an opinion of mine too. If you love to play this while playing Smash, go right ahead, more power to you. I'll just be over here jamming out to other Animal Crossing music instead, like Bubblegum KK and 2am while you're listening to Sleep Song over here. Regardless, I do think that this remix is very tranquil and beautiful. That wasn't a lie, it is a very nice piece and I can listen to it by itself, but don't expect this to ever appear on my Switch setup, ever. Speaking of music that makes me fall asleep, would be The Roost. This song plays whenever the player enters the Roost Cafe in any of the Animal Crossing games, but this remix is played specifically from the DS game Wild World, which is weird because every iteration of the Roost are more or less the same thing, but who am I to know since I've never played a single Animal Crossing game. Shoutouts to the SSB Wiki for getting all the information for games I've never played, by the way. Getting back on topic, this remix features a light percussion setting this time around, compared to the previous Outdoors at 7 PM, so it makes it higher on the tier list by one spot, which doesn't really help its case. Yeah, it's super boring, fight me on this one, but I do admit it is a very soothing song. I'd rather be drinking coffee than anything else but fighting in a game of Smash. Like I said before, I just want to hear music that is meant to be played for high-intensity fights. Even the director himself, Masahiro Sakurai, stated that when he heard this remix at an invitational in Japan, he noticed that it doesn't get people excited when listening to this piece. And funny enough, that's just how I'm going to be basing every remix on this list on just this one comment he made in an interview about the music of Smash. I'm a super big fan of this interpretation that I'm even making a tier list out of all the Smash remixes in the series. Damn, I seriously don't have a life. Anyways, I think this remix can go right at the bottom of the list because I'm very unexcited to listen to this while playing in the game. But this will definitely go into my playlist for going to sleep, that's for sure. I'm not going to be shitting on every Animal Crossing remix that was produced for Smash. Even though the music is very light-toned, some of them are actual bangers that I'll get to later down the line. But for the case of the Roost remix here, it'll have to be at the back of the pack. Probably a remix that I could potentially get a lot of heat for, but I still stand by my decision of not being very good for fighting in Smash. And yes, I am going to be saying that line of dialogue for a lot of these early entries on the tier list. Not my fault that I'm telling the truth here. This is the Brawl version of Luigi's Mansion main theme, first played on the GameCube in 2001. The theme plays throughout Luigi's adventure of the mansion, mostly during the corridor hallways and through Luigi's own humming to keep himself sane. And boy, I should try to be sane when talking about this sleeper of a Smash remix. Instrumentation is mostly an orchestral piece backed up with a deep choir and an interesting music box tune at the beginning of the remix. Mixed in with eerie sounds and a spooky vibe makes this a good piece to go with a game such as Luigi's Mansion. I will say that I like the remix for having an amazing atmosphere and can make things really do go bump in the night, but that's all the niceties I can say for this one. It is really slow, with no percussion, so it's not upbeat at all. In fact, it is one of the slowest beats per minute songs in the entire Smash franchise of music. Even though I'm shitting on this remix objectively, I still think rather highly of it as just being a really creepy or good Halloween song to vibe to. Shogo Sakai's vision with the remix is peak for what it's worth, and it really fits the Luigi's Mansion stage in Smash perfectly. No surprise there. However, I'm speaking about a remix through liveliness and how fun it is to fight to, and I don't hear two of those things at all in this remix. Apologies for all the people that are pissed off with me about this one, but you just have to understand that even some of the best pieces can't fit with all the game genres, and that is what I'm basically going for here. Also, probably gonna get a lot of hate for this one too. But next up is Saria's theme. This iconic theme is taken from the Nintendo 64 game Ocarina of Time, where the character Saria can teach Link Saria's song on the ocarina to progress through the game. This is also played when exploring the Lost Woods area of the game as well. And while I do enjoy the original song and the Smash remix a lot, I can't help but feel this is actually ripped straight from the Nintendo 64 game itself. Like literally, when I listen to both the original and this remix, it sounds the same, just updated presentation from newer generations of consoles. It also uses the same instruments and tempo, and that's what this remix is honestly going for, and having the same loop last for under a minute is not ideal for me to play in a fight. Seriously, when playing Smash with this remix on, it gets repetitive as this piece drones on and on and on. Plus, this theme is not meant to be played in battles in the first place since it's only used for overworld exploration and nothing else. I do love to listen to it on its own, but not while playing in a game of Smash. Sorry Saria's theme and its fans, it's just not meant for everything. Here we have another mediocre remix that is a bit too relaxing for my taste in a game that's meant to be made for fighting. And I just want to reiterate that these songs and composers are not bad at all, it just doesn't fit with how I view the music from Smash in general. Anyways, we have Pedal Glider here, originated from the 3DS game Pilot Wings Resort. And while the song says Pedal Glider in the name, the theme itself comes with a hang glider section from the game instead. So this is in fact a misleading title for the remix. This unfortunately isn't the only mistranslation title. There will be other incorrect titles that I will also mention later down the line. Translators only had one job. So, what are my opinions on this remix? That's it. I do like these simple acoustic guitar, piano, and percussion instruments that go with this remix, however. It's a very nice tone that makes me feel like I'm cruising in the air, especially if you play on a stage like Pilot Wings. Kinda funny how they mix so well given that they come from the same game universe, but on other stages like Summit or Find Me, yeah, it's kinda out of place. While this is a very relaxing remix, this doesn't really make me want to play Smash, hence why it is here on the tier list. And also, this remix isn't really justified. It has the same tempo and instrumentation as it did in its original 3DS piece, so that also docks a few points from the originality aspect of things too. All in all, I honestly don't really have much to say about this remix in general. It's just a nice little piece that can go with everything, except for fighting games like Smash and possibly shooters too, but I'm not gonna go far into that can of worms. Speaking about music that doesn't give out the fighting game aesthetic is the Smash 4 remix of King DDD's theme. This plays when Kirby encounters the final boss of the game, King Dedede, and is the main theme of the Greedy King and other subsequent Kirby games. This Smash remix takes a more Japanese-centric form with instrumentation such as a shakuhachi and a shamisen. God, I hope I didn't butcher those names, and I'm a little bit lazy to go to Google to pronounce them correctly, so hopefully I did an okay job saying that. It plays just like something you hear overseas or from some random Asian restaurant, just not so much of a faster tempo such as this and in a more laid-back atmosphere. And while yes, this remix is very upbeat and fast-paced for it being what it is, given that it is a boss battle theme, I just kinda wish that it had more oomph to it with this being an all-wind and string musical piece. If I could just change one aspect of this remix, I really want it to have some sort of percussion instrument like a bass drum or an old school taiko drum that would definitely fit that feeling of the Japan vibe much better than what we have now. Even if they put something like that in, I would still put this remix low on this list regardless. The composers for this remix, being Hide and Hide, are known in Japan for the style of musical composition that they play, and they do a fantastic job being highly regarded musicians for the type of craft that they do. But I still wouldn't like to fight with this type of music on while playing the game. It feels a little distracting or not very impactful while playing it. Just not a very big fan in general. I do appreciate the musicians' attempts at making a very iconic boss theme in their style of music, and they did an alright job on their own. It's just not my taste of music that goes along with a Smash game. But they also added a Kirby Life Over theme at the end of the song, which is actually pretty cool. I'll give it a few bonus points for that little secret, but nothing more. Next up, we got another weirdo remix on the list, if you already couldn't tell. It's the Wii Fit Plus medley. 4 songs are featured on this medley in the Nintendo Wii game with the same name. The first being Obstacle Course, then Rhythm Parade, third is Perfect 10, and ending it on Snowball before the loop back to the beginning. I'm just going to go off an observation here that Maki Kirioka just likes to add quirkiness to the music she produces. Just like we saw with the Freaky Forms medley that I previously went over, we first hear these really disturbing vocals that I'm not even sure that they were even from the original game, then it starts going faster and faster as the medley progresses. Got some weird instrumentation like I think there is a kazoo in there and a xylophone in some bits, definitely some loony stuff at the beginning. But nearing the end of the remix is the snowball fight section, and I honestly think it's the best part of this remix. It has some more hard rock tones which fit a snowball fight aesthetic very well, but in this case, a fight in Smash 2. If the whole medley incorporated these same feelings, it would be a pretty nice piece to produce here, but just that whole beginning is just wrong on so many levels. Definitely has that Freaky Forms vibes with that weird vocaling. I can understand why Kirioka would want to make this type of music. Make it a really wacky style or in a so-called repertoire of music production, which is honestly really original in that sense. But in the case for Smash Bros., it really just doesn't work at all. A Wii Fit D+ for the attempt. And the wackiness just doesn't end here, does it? Now that I think about it, I really don't get why that most of the Smash 4 tracks that were remixed are just really fucking weird in general. Makes no sense to me. The music direction in Ultimate and Brawl had some outstanding remixes that it's sad to see a lot of these Smash 4 ones being shafted here, but that's just how it is. Maybe because Smash 4 was just a terrible game, but that's another topic for another time. Regardless, this is the second remix version made from Wii Sports Resort, which in a way is the main title theme for the Wii game with the same name. As the title of the remix implies, there were 2 versions for the main theme that were made and both composed by Kazumi Tataka for Smash 4. We will talk about that first version later down the line. Right now though, with the second version, it's just a little bit too bizarre for my taste, and I don't quite like it at all. It makes me feel a little bit itchy in a way and doesn't give me a tropical type of vibe that the original game's music would make me feel. Is that a normal description to anyone else? Well, it uses a synthwave for its main melody with an accompanying guitar to make a disco-centric type of tone. I might be an odd one out with this opinion of mine, cause I see some people actually enjoy this version of the remix than the other one that I put much higher on my list. Oh well, can't really please everyone. I'm just giving out my stupid opinions on the internet for no one to see and hear. Point is, I think it just sucks. Not very good. And down the list it goes. Simple as that. Now, we have a remix that I really just feel nothing for. It's Ashley's song from Smash 4. This song first appeared when you played microgames in Ashley's stage in the Nintendo DS game WarioWare Touched, and her theme has become a staple in the game franchise going forward. Fun fact about this remix is that this is actually the only one in the Smash series to only feature Japanese lyrics with no accompanying English lyrics. The rest of the lyrical remix songs in Smash have both Japanese and English lyrics going along with each lyrical remix in Smash. While the character Ashley and her theme are very popular, I think we can all agree that this remix really isn't the best. I do think adding what feels like a marching beat to this remix really characterizes Ashley to this song, but it just doesn't sit right for me in a gameplay aspect for Smash. I think it might have to come down to the lyrics being only in Japanese too. I'm an Advent dubbed fan. I know I have shit taste, you don't have to remind me, so having no lyrics in my native speaking language could put me off a bit. I also think this style of music was meant to be played in Japanese too. If there were some overseas lyrics singing to this remix, it would feel like it would be much weirder to listen to. Also, the marching aspect is cool, but you gotta do with a more of a bombastic feeling than a lackluster one, which I think that this remix goes down the latter phrase, unfortunately. Anyways, just not a big fan of this piece in general. Once we get to the other Ashley's remix later down the line, however, I will have a lot nicer things to say. Plus, it'll be in English. Huge W. Alright, going to be throwing a huge curveball at you guys here. Going to be slotting in all the stages that were represented in the original Nintendo 64 game that started it all, Super Smash Bros. As many of you have already known, Smash 64 has 8 multiplayer stages in total, each incorporating one remix for each stage. Minus one of the stages being Mushroom Kingdom, which only plays the ground theme of the NES game Super Mario Bros., and it is ripped out from said game, so really isn't counted as a remix. So right now, I will go over from bottom to top of which I think are the worst to the best remixes in the game. Starting at the bottom of the list is Jungle Level from Donkey Kong Country in the Jungle Japes stage. Then Overworld theme from The Legend of Zelda in the Hyrule Castle stage. Ground theme from Super Mario Bros. On the Peach's Castle stage is next on the list, with the main theme from Star Fox 64 on the Sector Z stage following right after. 3 more remix songs now, with Yoshi's Story being the next one on the Super Happy Tree stage, followed up by the main theme of Pokemon Red and Blue in the Saffron City stage, and lastly ending it off with Brinstar from Metroid on the Planet Zebeth stage. So now you may be asking why I am putting all of these songs together in this tier. Well, let me just start off by saying that the one and only composer for the original Smash 64 game was Hirokazu Ando. At the time, he did a brilliant job of incorporating songs from past Nintendo titles to build a foundation of remix music in Smash Bros. Not just with remix music, but the whole game in general, with original songs like Final Destination, Metacrystal, the menu theme, and Targets to name a few that will continue to be fan favorites among Smash fans. Unfortunately, for these compressed 64 remixes for the original Nintendo titles, I have less to say about them. Yes, Ando-san could only do so much for these remixes themselves, given from hardware limitations that the Nintendo 64 provided. They are very dated and not comparable to the remixes that we have now. While listening to these remixes that are in Ultimate, they just felt very clunky and not fun to listen to with the updated graphics and speed of the newer games like in Ultimate. I never really played the original Smash Bros. Myself growing up. I was a Melee kid, so I can't really give out any sort of nostalgia through these remixes, even if I wanted to. And even if I wanted to, I would still rank them pretty low regardless of nostalgia factor. These songs are generally the same as they were once in their previous titles. Minus Yoshi, Pokemon, and Metroid, I think they stand out from the bunch, which I put them a little bit higher. But when they made later entries in the Smash series, they actually remixed these remixes, so you are honestly better off listening to the modernized version of these songs rather than these old and outdated ones unless you're listening for nostalgia purposes. Still, I will applaud Mr. Ando for paving the way of making Smash remixes possible. Thank you for your hard work and amazing talent. So yeah, that's the reason why all 7 of these remixes are bunched in together. I'm definitely not missing any remixes here. I've counted and yep, just these 7 on this tier and nothing more. Let's just move on before you guys have any more silly ideas in your heads. Next up on the tier list is... it's this one. Okay, so it has come to my attention that we finally hit a remix that has vocal mix interpretation to it. Well, kinda. I'll explain it in a bit. The Smash 4 remix of Light Plane comes from the Super NES game Pilot Wings. When you choose the aircraft Light Plane, the original song can be heard when soaring through the skies with that specific aircraft. For this remix, it has a jazzy type of feel to it, with the saxophone being the main lead instrument, which is cool. Need more sax in my life for real. We also got the drum set, bass, guitars, a synthwave for extra effect, and female vocals in the background. Alright, this is going to be why I'm putting this so damn low on the tier list. Why the hell are there vocal mixes in this remix when there is literally another remix called Light Plane Vocal Mix that does the same thing but better? Don't really know what Masato Koda was going for when making these 2 versions. He just didn't want to leave the vocalization out? I would honestly think that leaving the vocals out and replacing it with just only the sax would make it a far better remix. It feels so out of place, unfortunately. Super big nitpick of mine that there are vocals when there is a far better track with vocals that I like much better. And these vocals, man, they're just a copy and paste from the one from the vocal mix track. Not even a little subdued, like I can literally listen to these quiet vocals while playing a game of Smash with. It just takes me out of the experience and I'm not having a good time with it. The only fantastic thing is the music, but if the vocals were not present, I would probably put this as a possible top 100 remix on this tier list. Not even kidding. Koda also remixed the bath time themes from Nintendogs for Smash 4 as well, each with a vocal mix track and one without. Yet those specific remixes doesn't even have a subdued vocal mixing like it shouldn't have. Don't know why this one has to have them. So yeah, slotting this pretty low on the list. Apologies if I sounded very heated about this remix just makes me so damn angry. I think I'm ready to move on now. Oh, but don't worry, you'll be seeing the vocal track mix of Light Plane much higher on the list when I have much better things to say about it. Oh yeah, much better things. Here's a Shogo Sakai classic that I know I will definitely get a lot of hate for. This is Snowman. This song is taken from the first game in the Mother franchise called Mother 1, but known in the West as Earthbound Beginnings. Snowman can actually be heard in all of the games in the Mother trilogy, but it was introduced in the first game, and the theme plays in a town called Snowman, when Ninten enters the area and can notably recruit the character Anna into the party. A fun fact about this remix is that this can be heard in the Japan-only album Mother 3 Plus. This means that this remix is one of the very few remixes in Smash history that was distributed through another piece of media. Okay, here are my thoughts. While this remix is very sorrowful, beautiful, and can have a lot of impact, I think everyone knows what I'm going for here. This really doesn't give me a vibe of wanting to play Smash. I know, I am a super heartless person for putting this remix very low. But please understand that I would like my background music to be full of life and heart-pounding exciting tension in every match of Smash. This is just not one of them to be put very lightly. I do very much like the tone it has for an adventure game like Earthbound, with lots of passion put into this piece. It definitely makes you feel like you're in a winter wonderland of some kind, as the title suggests, and the vocals at the beginning of the remix are very haunting and sets the tone of what the remix has to offer. I really hope everyone watching this video considers my feelings on the matter. It's just not a very good fight song for Smash, and other remixes are much worthier in the music spotlight and context to my certain criteria on what a Smash remix should be. But I will give it up to Sakai for making a truly blessed song. I'm saying this deep down in my cold, lifeless heart. Thank you, Mr. Sakai, for your truly amazing masterpieces on your contributions to video game music history. With that being said, let's just continue on with the tier list. Just going to go ahead and get right to this one. This remix are two arrangements joining together from the DS game Animal Crossing Wild World, the first being the Town Hall theme, and then Tom Nook's store as the name implies. They are mildly catchy tunes in this remix, with a lead acoustic guitar at the beginning, and several wind instruments and a supporting tapini during the piece, and what seems to be some sort of kazoo or harmonica or something like that? I don't know what the instrument is, it's just there to make it a bit annoying to me. Since I never played the Animal Crossing games, according to the SSB wiki, these two renditions of the themes are very faithful to the original game that it comes from, while adding new instrumentation to the mix. And while adding new instruments to an existing original song would definitely consider it a remix, it's not that very upbeat or a fast-paced piece, so of course I'm going to dunk it near the bottom of the tier list. Honestly, when listening to the original songs, yeah, I wouldn't want those versions to be in my Smash game either. It's really not that good for a fighting game, so they made the right choice to remix these arrangements here. Also, not going to lie, but this remix can honestly be quite catchy at some points. Like the snapping and the whistling make it pretty neat at least, and the orchestra is also a nice touch, adding in some cool motifs into the background if you listen very carefully. A little bit boring and simplistic, but it isn't like the other bombshells we have seen before. But that's all the credit that I'm gonna give to this remix. I still won't play this during Smash battles. And just when I was talking about being done with fucking chiptune and 8-bit style remixes, here's another one just around the corner because fuck me. Flat Zone 2 is a remix that uses a bunch of different sound quips that have been used in old handheld systems called Game & Watches. The composer, Kenichi Okuma, used these quips and incorporated an electronic medley of sorts into this piece using electric guitars and synths. So I will be honest about this. I do like it when composers or arrangers use old sound clips and music to make their own unique composition. They just have to add different modern instruments being put into the piece to be actually considered a decent composition in my opinion. And honestly, Flat Zone 2 does a fairly good job at doing just that. Unfortunately, I'm just so sick and tired of hearing this remix in Ultimate whenever I play online and whenever Flat Zone X is the stage of choice. The Flat Zone 2 remix seems to be the only one to ever play, and it just gets irritating over time. And I will say that the more upbeat tempo of this theme makes it a tad bit more annoying when the sound bites play. Just a little bit too loud and distracting. The first Flat Zone remix is a bit better in my opinion, but believe me when I say that you will see it not even 10 ranks away from this one. I do like the attempt of the remix on making it more quote-unquote fun, giving it a more rocking style to it. I'm just really tired of hearing it. You can only play it so much and not get your mind kicked in with those fucking beeps and boops. Next on the list, please. Is it perchance sacrilege to find one of the great Koji Kondo's remix songs this low on the list? I'm going to have to say yes, but before you click off, please let me explain why I have it so low in the first place. This is the Super Mario Bros. Medley, and it's a series of songs from the levels found in the original NES game. It starts off with the castle theme for like 3 seconds, then switches over to the overworld theme, then to the underwater theme, and finally the underground theme that repeats back into the overworld. Instrumentation-wise for this piece, features an ongoing synth with acoustic guitars and some sort of xylophone and bongo beat for the background, which has a distinct tropical vibe to it. So I'm going to come out and say that this track is super mid to me, and possibly even lower than mid. It has no oomph at all to it and very slow pace, which definitely kills the vibe to fight with. Before, when I wasn't even remotely thinking about doing a remix tier list project, I listened to this remix on the Nintendo Club Smash 4 CD that you can get if you use the download code on both 3DS and Wii U versions back in the day. Pretty neat that they actually did this. But as soon as I popped this sucker in the car and played it, I was incredibly disappointed in it, and my hatred for this remix went downhill ever since. I honestly very much wanted to make this my least favorite remix in the entire Smash series, but I decided not to since it is very disingenuous to compare this remix to others far worse in it, like fucking Now or Never. But looking back at it now and understanding what Mr. Kondo was going for in this piece, I can appreciate it a bit more now. Just a little bit. It is still very bland sounding, and I can't help myself that if this remix ever comes up in my playlist, it's an instant skip button. However, I guess I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and place it here on this tier list, despite my bitching. I do think Koji Kondo is a fantastic musician, even if this remix is not that great, but he has brought the Super Mario series to its highest highs in the form of incredible music, and still isn't done creating such masterpieces. He only composed 3 remixes for Smash Bros., however, each being Mario remixes, so we will see him later down the line, in hopefully much better placements. Time for another Super Mario remix, being Egg Planet. This song comes from Super Mario Galaxy on the Nintendo Wii for the first level called Good Egg Galaxy. This is definitely another typo, being that the level is actually called Good Egg Galaxy and not Egg Planet Galaxy. Egg Planet is not even a name in the original game, so I'm going to call this a typo as well. One job. Anyways, this remix is a very faithful adaptation from the source material, that an orchestra is presented in the same manner like in the original, but in a faster tempo, and during the ending portion of the piece, songs from the original Super Mario Bros. Game can be heard, such as the Overworld theme, Underground theme, Superstar theme, and the Hurry Up jingle, making it a makeshift medley of some kind. While the style for this remix fits Super Mario Galaxy very well, even in the Smash Bros. Stage's own Mario Galaxy, as mentioned before, it just doesn't have a whole lot of exciting features to it. Just an orchestra doing orchestra things, nothing really worth mentioning about this one, unfortunately. There's also this percussion player playing the cymbal throughout the whole piece, and it really gets annoying quickly. Takes away the serenity of the track too. Really disappointed by that, and it didn't really need that extra piece of equipment in my opinion. Super Mario Galaxy being my favorite game of all time, yes, I really meant that, has some great tunes in it, but it can be quite repetitive and dull. Plus, Good Egg Galaxy is just one of them that can be a bit boring to listen to over and over again. I would have loved to hear a remix of Gusty Garden Galaxy, Boyo Base Galaxy, or even Bowser's Boss Battle theme as a Super Mario Galaxy remix instead. But we got this one. Oh well. But all in all, really faithful remix, but a whole lot of nothing, plus annoying cymbal player to boot. So I think I'll place it here on the tier list. Coming to the second and last Super Mario Galaxy remix in Smash, which is really depressing to me since I love Galaxy so much, is Rosalina in the Observatory and Luma's theme. Wow, I just realized I put 3 Mario remixes here back to back to back. Not a problem for me, to be honest. They are all equally not as good in my opinion, but I'll give this remix some credit for at least trying something more interesting and different than the others I listed before. These 2 themes play in the hub world for Super Mario Galaxy called the Comet Observatory. First part is when Mario explores the Comet Observatory, talking to NPCs or going to levels, usual game stuff. But the ending part to this remix is a sub-area called the Library, with a cutscene event where Rosalina reads a storybook to the Lumas before looping back to the beginning. Instrumentation this time around is not a whole-blown orchestra like in Egg Planet. Well, actually it is, but lots of different instruments are being played, given like a marching band style to it instead. Either that or a carousel or circus act, which I think that fits perfectly well with this remix. Yeah, I can't help but see a mental image of clowns parading about in a circus whenever I listen to this remix. A little too jollyful for my liking. I understand that the Galaxy music in general doesn't make it very exciting. More like a whimsical and magical atmosphere to it, which I can appreciate from time to time. Well, this is a Smash game, damn it, and I don't want to be blown away from magic or clowns. Minami Kyoto did a great job on the musical remix though, differentiating itself from Galaxy's usual orchestra style, but I can't put this remix anywhere near the top of the list. It's just a bit too weird for my liking, and doesn't fit the competitiveness for Smash that I'm going for when ranking remixes. Rank number 408 feels like the perfect placement on my tier list for this one. So, now we've come to one of the 3 remixes that were not included into the Smash Ultimate lineup. These 3 remixes were originally produced from previous Smash games, but were excluded in the music lineup for unknown reasons. The first on this list being one of the 2 jungle levels from Brawl. The other jungle level is included into the Ultimate Track lineup, and we will get to that one at a later date. Jungle level, also known as the in-game track DK Island Swing, is found in the very first Donkey Kong Country level on the Super NES. The remix itself pays homage to that level theme, with basically the same ambience like being in an actual jungle with jungle and animal noises all colliding, with the usual repertoire of DK instrumentation being bongos, a bass line, piano, and wind instruments. I really enjoyed the Donkey Kong Country soundtrack for its originality of music, as well as making you feel like you're in an actual jungle, and all the Smash remixes for every jungle level theme do just that as well. Shoutouts to David Wise. However, I forgot to mention that this jungle level theme has the most amount of remixes in Smash, of which there were a whopping 6 remixes for this one level alone. Yikes, that is a bit too much, so I can understand why this remix was left out in Ultimate due to the oversaturation. Not only that, but this remix doesn't really differentiate itself from the original game and the other jungle level remixes in the Smash series. I mean, it makes you feel like you're Donkey Kong and you're in a jungle doing monkey things, yada yada yada, but it's not as fast paced compared to the other Smash remixes, and it being more faithful to the original song just with better instrumentation than found on the Super NES version doesn't really give it much brownie points. Plus, not being on the Ultimate track list to rub salt on that wound. I couldn't even really play this remix in the game without modding or placing some headphones in my ears and listening to it while playing, so I can't really give it a fair placement due to its absence unfortunately, so slotting it here on the tier list seems justified. Also, the beginning section is really slow for this remix. The percussion and jungle sounds keeps going for a half a minute and won't really see any action after the fact. I'd pretty much like the whole track to be very lively from start to finish to keep that energy going throughout the entirety of the match if playing in Smash. We will see the other jungle level remixes in due time, however. There are an overabundance to them for whatever reason, so a few might come sooner than you think. Told you guys that Flat Zone 1 will be closer down on this list from its second iteration, but many might think that the Flat Zone 2 remix is better than the first, so why did I put the first one higher? Well, I'll tell you why, but first things first is that this remix is mainly comprised of the original game quips and chiptune sounds from the Game & Watch handheld games back in the 1980s. The remix itself is original given that the Game & Watch games had no music associated to them. Hirokazu Ando made an ambient techno tune made with a synth that makes it sound old school in the process. I personally really like this nice ambient sounding tone that the first Flat Zone remix has over the second. It makes it a bit soothing and not so overly dramatic that sounds really annoying to me. But I will give credit where credit is due that making original music over the Game & Watch sounds are quite spectacular in their own right. I have to give more props to Ando for this one being the first of its kind in Smash, using the source material from actual Game & Watch games and making it into some otherworldly music piece. However, I can only take it up so far on the tier list due to the fact that I still think that the beeps and boops of the Game & Watches are hella annoying to me and makes it so I don't want to touch one in the first place. But that's just my stance. I wouldn't mind that some people would put these two remixes up more on their own tier list as timeless classics, but for me, I think this is where they belong. And with that, we are finally done with our first Smash series of remixes, but far from the last. And there will be more 8-bit styles of remixes later down on this list too, but they are done much better in my opinion. Hope you'll stay long enough to hear what I have to say about them. Here comes another Animal Crossing remix being the title theme of the DS game, Animal Crossing Wild World. As you can suggest of the title to the remix, this theme originally plays during the title screen when you start up the game. But it also consists of the museum, the 3 PM theme, Lone Paid Off jingle, 6 AM theme, Tom Nook's store, and the Town Hall theme before coming back to the title theme portion of the remix, making it a medley of some sorts. Holy shit, that is a lot to take in for just a basic title theme. The music in Wild World was made by the composer of this remix, Kazumi Tataka, and so they made this to be a homage to Wild World in general. The direction is nice, being a pretty nice tone of classic with a bit of a techno touch on the instrumentation. It doesn't overstay its welcome, but I still probably wouldn't want to listen to this while playing Smash, and so I'll put it this low on the list. Yeah, I know, I'm not the biggest Animal Crossing enjoyer, but I will say down the line that there are going to be some really good ones that I'll have much nicer things to say. This will actually be the last Animal Crossing remix for a while, so count yourselves lucky, Animal Crossing fans. I haven't completely butchered this entire list of remixes at the bottom of the barrel. Going to another faithful original and the first actual Pokemon remix in my tier list is Route 23 from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2. This song can be heard when you enter Route 23, one of the last routes you take before you head to Victory Road to face the Elite Four in the game. This theme in turn is also based on Professor Rowan's theme from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl with its similar melody, so you could also title this remix as Rowan's theme if people are inclined to do so. On the instrumentation side of things, as I mentioned previously, that this remix is pretty faithful to the original, being that it sounds exactly like what it sounds in the original DS game, so you can see why I put it pretty low on this list. It goes at a faster tempo than the original, however, and uses an orchestra rather than compressed audio, but I think this remix still sounds like it came straight from a DS, compressed audio and all. I can't be the only one that hears this, right? I just don't like the general sound quality at all when listening to this remix. If the arranger, which is Yuka Sugiyoko, wanted to have a distinct sound like it was made to be like the original in any way, then I'll just have to accept that decision. But I feel like that wasn't the best choice in the world and the remix is hindered by sounding just like the original in every way. Not the biggest fan in that aspect. Not only by listening to this remix on its own, but also while playing this in-game. Makes me feel a bit empty and wanting something more impactful to play instead. Good thing there are plenty of other amazing Pokemon remixes that have been made throughout the years to play instead of this one. So those are my 2 cents on this remix, and I betcha a lot of you people watching forgot that this remix even existed in the first place. It's kinda sad to think about, really. This is the only Black and White 2 song to be featured in the Smash series to begin with. Gen 5ers got hit pretty hard in the music department for Smash, but what can you do? Okay, another retro-esque style remix again. How fucking original, this is getting old really fast here. But to be honest, this remix actually sounds like an actual remix for once, and it's not all that bad to say the least. Maybe I should go over my description first. Ice Cream Island is a hub world and level found in Kirby's Adventure on the NES, but this music piece isn't the only thing that is played in this remix. It's also a medley in a way as well, featuring the boss theme when Kirby fights a boss, and the Kirby dance theme when you beat a level in the game. So kind of another naming typo, it should have been something like Kirby's Adventure Medley, but I can understand why it isn't due to Ice Cream Island being the first part of the remix, and it mostly consists of musical instrumentation found from that part for the original game too. Like with the other remixes that came before this one on the tier list, I'm not too huge on having songs that are taken right out of games that gets called a remix and then gets bitch slapped into it and you're done. I'm not going to be as harsh for this one though. This remix is way better because it's a lot more original than the music found in the NES game, and it's a lot more upbeat and jumpy from the background percussion that I can get behind. The problem is that it still kinda sounds like an NES game. I can see why the composer for this, Yoshihito Yano, wanted to make this sound like in the original game. This remix was produced during Smash 4's ongoing DLC lifespan, when Dreamland 64 was put into the game as DLC. So when making the remix, I guess they wanted to make a song that associated in an 8-bit style with the old style of the 64 stage. But I'm just not a huge fan of the chiptune style music in general while playing Smash. It just feels really weird that everything is so modernized and this chiptune song just plays and you start to wonder why this was even made to begin with. At least it's a tad bit better than the other stupid silly remixes, but that's not really saying much. I'll give this remix a thumbs up on the presentation at least, but a thumbs down on wanting to actually play it in Smash. Okay, I know what you're thinking, but before I say anything about this one, here is a known fact about me. Yoko Shimomura is actually my favorite video game composer of all time. Her music is magical, and whatever she composes turns to gold. I say that, but her first remix on this list doesn't even go over the 400th rank. I'm definitely going to get crucified for this pick, but let me explain before you try to find my IP address. First off, the origin for this piece. It's based off the area known as Magicant in Earthbound Beginnings. This remix features two parts, the first section being the Magicant area, which leads with a violin with an electronic feeling bass and drum, while the second section being the 8 Melodies theme, which uses traditional piano and an orchestra, which then leads back into the first section. These two pieces are also featured in the sequel game Earthbound. It is a very beautiful piece that I couldn't think of anyone else but Shimomura making it. But that doesn't help its case for it being locked into a high-stakes fighting game. I know, I say that a lot, but it's so true it hurts. I would not want this remix to be the background of some epic battle between Mario and Link, or Lucina and Sephiroth for example. Maybe Jigglypuff and Isabelle? That's debatable, but not sure if that will make it any better. Point is, it's just not something I wish to hear when put in the battle with, and I can't be the only one that feels this way. I can totally believe that people would have this remix in their top 100s, hell, even their top 10s for the best Smash remixes, and I wouldn't berate you or anything like that, but looking at an objective viewpoint, that this remix wasn't made for a one-on-one battle. Probably only was meant to be put into a fight like with 8 people in it or something. Although, I believe no one would even pay attention to the music piece at that point, especially the second part of the piece featuring the 8 melodies where there's no drums or bass in it. Well, sorry for hating on this remix, especially for it being composed by the video game music goddess herself, but hey, all her other Smash remixes are all bangers. We won't see her for quite a while anyways, right? Right? And now, nearly after 40 spots on this list, we finally arrived on our first Ultimate Remix. Definitely not missing any others here, no sir. We also have here our last remix of the day, and it's Desperate Struggle. The original theme can be found within the final chapter of Tekken 7's story mode, as during the second phase of the final battle between Heihachi Mishima and Devil Kazuya. The original song consists of various string instruments such as violins and cellos, with a bit of brass horns, bass drum, and techno-esque synth sounds, making it a solid orchestrated piece. The Smash remix, however, completely blew over the original classical theme by adding electronic EDM pieces littered all over the orchestra piece, making it a breakcore style music instead. The background orchestra section for this remix has a bit of a tempo increase to it, but the main focus is more of this electronic style of music that, with all intent and purposes, makes me want to puke. This remix in turn reminds me of the Cloud Top Cruise remix, which I put at the very bottom of my tier list, but at least this remix tries the very least to differentiate itself from its original soundtrack. However, electronic-inspired classical music isn't my favorite. I like it in small bursts here and there, but in this specific case, I kinda wish that it didn't even existed in the first place. Listening to this remix, I really don't know how I feel about it. The sounds are not even congruent and don't have a specific beat to it. Just another one of those mishmash messes that I feel doesn't belong here in Smash. Plus, the electronic sounds drown out the amazing orchestra in the background, especially at that 2-minute and 30-second mark where I just cannot stand to listen to this anymore. If it was in tandem with the orchestra like in a few other Ultimate remixes where classical orchestra and electronic music come together beautifully, then I wouldn't mind it as much, but this remix just does it so mindlessly and ruins my experience. Since this remix is from the Tekken series, I can understand why Nobuko Toda made it in the first place. It definitely has a certain Tekken feeling to it that you can't really explain. The music in Tekken has that certain electronic charm and vibe that you cannot help but groove to it, but I'm not the biggest fan when it comes to the series music as a whole. I can understand its appeal at least though. This is why I don't have it at the way bottom of the tier list, and more so in this spot because I think it'd be a little disingenuous to have a remix trying to be hype. I'm probably sure people do like this remix somehow, and will tell me that I have the shit taste here. But I'd rather use my shit taste to listen to remixes with actual class than a fucking mess. With this being one of the first breakcore style remixes in Smash ever, please, for the love of God, please never make one again for the next game. Thank you. Hey there everybody, thanks for watching till the end of this video here, and yeah, what a video that was. You all probably have some questions like, what the hell did I just watch, or why am I listening to this guy shit talk my favorite Smash song? I should probably kick him in the balls. Well, those are some fine questions, and I will hopefully answer all of your inquiries in this outro section of the video, but please don't hurt me from an opinion, thank you. Anyways, I should probably start with the main reason why I'm doing this in the first place. Well, it's because I just outright love the whole Smash Bros. OST to death. Smash has been throughout all my life through thick and thin, and the music really makes or breaks the immersion of fighting with the beloved characters I grew up on. And oh boy, the music. It's just breathtaking, and Ultimate has over 1,000 music pieces, the most amount of music in any video game or piece of media to date. There is absolutely no reason that one of your favorite video game soundtracks has to be from the Smash Bros. Series, at least in your top 5. I'm unfortunately a little late on this, but I really wanted to celebrate Ultimate's 5th year anniversary with this project that talks about the remixes of the Super Smash Bros. Series. Better late than never, I suppose. But these are music pieces that have been produced from the ground up that takes already known video game music and mashes them up into the arranger's own style of composition that they are known for. And I've put them all into a tier list on what I think which remixes are the very worst to the very best. Yeah, I know, a tier list. Very original. Not. But I didn't know how to properly order them otherwise, and ordering them into a numerical order instead of an A, B, C type of list is a much better way of doing this specific type of tier list, instead of half-assing them into alphabetical categories. I also really wanted to make this video series a history of video game music too. Going from the original compositions to the newly composed remixes made for Smash, such as where it's from, how it's originally played, what differs from the original song to the remix made for Smash Bros. Things like that to make the most comprehensive and expressive music tier list to date. And also because I see no YouTubers making a tier list that doesn't blatantly rank the music by putting it up for 10 seconds, never speaking about it, and to move on to the next one. Yeah, I wanted to be that crazy guy and be the first to make a very detailed list and appreciate all of this wonderful music that the composers for these remixes made to put them in the spotlight and to also explore on why the Super Smash Bros. Remixes are just so goddamn great. So, now you know why I really want to do this project, but I wanted to go over 3 specific criteria on where and why I put each individual remix for my tier list. Number 1 is the original soundtrack. And this is where I go deep dive at the beginning of my small essays from where the song originated from with how it sounded way back when. But this also translates to how does the remix stack up to the original composition. Does it play just like how it sounded back from the original, or does it sound entirely different with new instrumentation? If the remix goes to a different route from the original, I will generally like it a little bit more and rank it a bit higher on my list. And if it sounds just like the original composition, or even worse than it does, then I'll rank it a bit lower. Some original soundtracks do sound way better than the remixes, and I'll be going in depth later on in my series. The second criteria is the composition, and this is where I will talk about how the remix sounds. Is it bombastic and upbeat, or is it atmospheric and captivates you in another world? What were the arrangers feeling when making this remix piece, and if they go beyond their comfort zone? I don't focus on this criteria too much with my tier list, unlike the next criteria that I'll talk about, but if the music doesn't give you a sense of feeling, then it is lost on the listener and people that are playing a game of Smash and would be uninterested to be captivated by. I want to make sure that my tier list has music pieces that make the listener or partaker of the game to be enamored by the music that is playing in the background. And that is what I'm really looking for when talking about the best music in Smash. I mean, seriously, come on. Does anyone really want to listen to Gamer or the Super Mario Bros. Ground theme for the gajillionth time? No? Didn't think so. And finally, for my last criteria, how does the music feel in-game? This is the biggest of the big focus for this tier list. How does it feel when listening to this piece in a game of Smash? Like I said previously in this video, Sakurai stated that he wanted to make Smash Ultimate remixes enthrall the players with upbeat music and not make it so drowned out, melodramatic, and boring. Hopefully I made it very clear in this video that some of these remixes I mentioned just didn't captivate me and my brain to have a fun Smash-filled time with, and instead, maybe want to turn off the music and not have an enjoyable experience. Music is everything on how great a video game truly is. People have worked hard on music composition for video games, but it gets shafted if they are not memorable or sound like an Atari 2600. These arrangers really gave it their all to make the best music that they can possibly produce. Unfortunately, music is very subjective, especially with this tier list since my music taste will differ from others. Personally, if I am playing in a fighting game, I want something epic and make me thrilled to fight my opponent until someone is victorious. Make it very heavy, fast-paced, with meaning and purpose, that I'm here and I want to win. If a remix is pretty enchanting, slow-paced, atmospheric, or sounds old as hell, then I would have a very hard time getting that feeling of beating my opponent down. Probably vice versa too. If that is the case, then I dunk that shit on my tier list like I did with all the remixes I posted already. But, like I said, music is very subjective. If people like the listed remixes that I mentioned today, and would like to be put up higher, be my guest on making your own tier list instead. I'm not stopping you. And in fact, encourage people on making a detailed and expressive list on your favorite Smash music alone. But that is how I'm viewing the remix music, and is the main focus of this tier list being what it is. With each of these criteria in mind, I want to try and compile the best of the best music Smash has to offer, and during this series, I would like anyone watching this to comment on if my opinion was wrong or right, what remix track should be on this given spot and whatnot. I'd love to get a bit of a discussion going and hear your opinions on the music in Smash. Now, with that mumbo jumbo out of the way, let's talk a little bit about why you want to hear an opinion from this one guy on the internet who have never made any videos in its entire existence. Well, my personal tag is SSB100 in Smash. Yeah, very original name, I know, and I just love Smash Brothers so much, and video games as a whole. Ever since I got my little gremlin hands on a GameCube controller, I was always infatuated in video games and its culture. I loved playing Mario Kart, Sonic Adventure, and Mario Party with my little sister and friends growing up. Oh yeah, can't forget about Melee. Was, never really good at playing it though. I am also a longtime competitor for my local Smash scene, ever since Smash 4 was announced, and have competed ever since. It's been about 10 years since I first started, but I think it's almost time for me to end my competitive career. Never really got out of it that much with what little time I put out for the game, but I enjoyed it so much and made a multitude of friends that I will always cherish. Although, if you want to random money match me with random character select, I'll take you up in that offer and claim your money. I also have a little bit of musical background knowledge as well. I was played and taught the basics of piano when I was 6 years old, and played percussion when I was in middle school and the marching band throughout my years in high school, playing the snare, bass drum, marimba, as well as various other percussion instruments. I have a somewhat decent knowledge on musical theory too, and will try to put in different meanings, but won't go overboard with it in my project. I want to make this a video game music history lesson, not a lesson in musical theory. That sounds a bit weird when I say it out loud, but yeah, if you want to understand music theory, this isn't the series to be looking forward to. This is honestly just one big passion project that I want to make due to my love for this series and its music. I'm also very green on video making, so try and take this stuff with a grain of salt if this is not as polished as other videos to everyone's liking. In fact, this is actually my first ever edited video I made in my life, so please go easy if you don't like the flow of the content. I'll try and make it more appealing as time goes on when future videos get released, but even if no one else is watching this video, I still want to put this out there to make my voice heard on this stupid little topic that I made. Also, I will try to keep this series ad-free, but if it isn't, I deeply apologize about that. I'm not really doing this for monetization value. I just want my voice to be heard through video format, but I also want this to be a series to enjoy music and be put on for people who are like working or studying, hopefully something along the lines of that. But for the people who are actually watching the video and have seen the Smash footage in the background, I personally recorded 442 different Smash Ultimate matches over the past year. Most of them are online matches, while some of them are from offline playing with local friends that helped me out with this project. Most of them are online though, and you can definitely tell that there are many misinputs, self-destructs, and overall slow match speed that happen constantly when recording all this footage. Some are with very prominent players, while others, not that much, so please be respectful to the players that were shown throughout the footage. These are all supplementary to the project regardless, and just wanted to get some decent viewing pleasure for people that want to watch instead of listen to this video. All of these matches were made with 5 stocks, 8 minutes on Battlefield and Omega forms of stages that complement the musical remix that is currently playing. I wanted to make them long due to me having enough time to properly get in my short essay about the song, and some 3 stock matches actually are super fast, lasting like almost 2 minutes sometimes, so if I had more than 3 stocks, I could make it more doable to list off my essays properly. The characters that I also play will be defaulted skin characters related to the stage, so if you want to shit talk someone playing badly, be me if you want, I can take it. In fact, money match me next time we meet in a local and we will see who has the last laugh. Well, I think that it's about time to wrap up this video finally. If you stayed this long, I humbly thank you for all sticking to the end. Like I said before, I'm SSB100 and I can be found through my Twitter account that's linked in the description here. If you really want to follow me. You don't have to, but if you want to keep updated on my journey through this topic, I guess a follow would be nice. And I could also ask to subscribe as well if you're really that bored and want to hear this stupid guy ramble on about Smash music. Also, let me know how I can improve this series. This was recorded back in March, and I still have half the project to get through, so let me know on how I can improve, and that would really help me out from making the best series I can possibly make. Alright, that should be it. The next video will come out next week. Same time and same place, so I'll see you all very soon. Have a blessed day, everybody. Take care.